Thank you, Marina, and thank you, Charity Village, for having us here today to talk to all of you about events in the new space that we're in. We're going to jump right in here. And first, I just want to take a moment to let you know that we are going to have a slight change in our topic today. And we hope you don't mind. We think it's in your best interest. Originally, when we were asked to participate, we were going to just talk about, the virtual event space and, what our team has learned and walk you through a couple of case studies that we've done over the last, 18 months or something. But then as the pandemic has, we're seeing that light at the end of the tunnel. We are hearing about events that are happening definitely in the US right now. So we wanted to really talk about also the landscape of what we're talking to our clients about right now. And also what are events going to look like post 2021. So we've changed up a little bit, but we do think that you're going to find more value in us really talking about where we are now and where we're going. So that's kind of how we structured today's webinar. And then at the end, we're going to leave some time for some questions, we hope. And so please keep track of some questions. You can also ask the questions in the chat box, and we're going to try to get to them all at the end of the presentation. Okay, first, so let's talk a little bit about Fluid Events. Some of you probably have not heard of us. We are based in Toronto, but we actually work all over North America. So first, a little bit about me and when I started Fluid. So we started Fluid about 8 years ago. Like most of you, I am actually a fundraiser by trade and at heart. So I've actually never worked in the corporate space. I've only worked in nonprofit organizations from an early age, in my early 20s. I had a real passion for raising money, was started in an independent grassroots organizations actually to start, then ended up in the independent school system for a while where I was a director of development at a school in Richmond Hill where I managed a major gift portfolio, the alumni relations program, and the events. From there, I had a real passion for events and went into a large national organization, Children's Aid Foundation of Canada, where we ran a huge event portfolio and had a great team there. And after that great experience, I decided that I was an entrepreneur at heart and started Fluid Events and wanted to be one of the only organizations in Canada, definitely, maybe even in North America, that strictly works with nonprofits. We don't take corporate clients. All of our team members here at Fluid have all worked in a nonprofit setting. I think it really makes us stand out when we're working with our clients because, especially with myself being in a leadership position on the other side, I really understand mission driven events, cultivation events, what's important to your donors, that the end goal is really turning those guests into donors and starting them on that donor cycle, working with committees, working with boards. I think that's really what sets us apart. So started Fluid and, been very proud to say that we've raised to date over $50 million for our nonprofit clients, and that is growing, and really hope that we'll be able to connect with you at a later time. So enough about that, and let's really talk about where Fluid was in 2020. I mean, like everybody, March, the NBA is canceled, the pandemic is declared, everybody is spiraling out of control, the borders get closed, everything's locked down. And I think, like most people, we didn't think this was going to last, 12 to 18 months. We thought, okay, yeah, definitely our spring events, they're definitely going to be canceled. But our fall events in 2020, they're happening, no problem. Well, I think like many of you, we tried to learn so much about this virtual space because we started to feel like it might stay. So our team, I mean, we didn't have experience in virtual events. This was new. I mean, in your event space, you kind of stay within your box and, you're looking for new like digital ideas, but that was about it. We never really were ready for a global pandemic. So we dove into so many webinars and attended every free virtual event that we could get on. And it was great. We were pushing our boundaries. We were pushing our learning, and we enjoyed enjoyed it. Our team really, really grabbed it by the horns and said, let's do this, let's own it. And we did. And we were really thankful for many of our clients that trusted us to go virtual. We started to plan that any of these events, even our in-person events in the fall, what's going to happen if we can't get in person. So we had a team member that really dove into just our COVID response plans and what that was going to look like, in person, what a communication strategy was going to be to our guests. We created hybrid models first. So, okay, maybe we're not going to be able to have 1,000 person at the convention center, but maybe we can do 100 people person. So we developed a model of brilliant hybrid events that we ended up using, which was really great. So it was a very interesting time. We had one really great client. They were new to us. So typically it was an in-person 800 person gala happening at a convention center, raising about $2 million. And, luckily for us, we had pitched them a new model anyway, which was kind of interesting. It was like we were almost getting ahead of it without even knowing the pandemic was coming. We had pitched them because they were a national organization. And one of the things that they had struggled with was that some of their donors, some of their partners, they really thought they were only Toronto focused, but they were actually a national organization and had programs in the East Coast and in the West Coast. So we had actually pitched a dinner series model for 2020, still just located in the GTA, but it was really to test it to see if we could take that model in 2021 and do a dinner series in other cities in Canada. So we were, again, just testing it in Toronto. So we had approval for that, and we're moving forward with that. So we were looking at, I believe we were around 20 different venues in Toronto, all going to have the same run of show, curating really different menus. So we're moving ahead. And even when the pandemic was hit, we're like, oh, you know what? We're already in this model. Maybe it's going to be fine. Let's keep trucking. Let's keep planning for this. The one thing, though, that we really did right from the start. So when the pandemic hit, we said, okay, there's going to be a possibility here that this is going to have to go 100% virtual. We didn't even know what that meant at the time. This was going to be our first virtual event. So what did we start doing? Our team made sure that we were not going to spend $1 on something that we couldn't take virtual. So that meant really negotiating our venue contracts, making sure that we weren't going to lose any deposits, making sure that if we were booking any entertainment that would be in person, we were not going to lose that money regardless of what timeline we decided to go virtual. So there were some hard conversations with vendors that we had on behalf of our client, but we did it. And I'm proud to say that we didn't waste $1. So we pre-recorded everything, which is really, really important. And I'm going to dive in a little bit more on that later, because I think that that's something key that we're going to be moving on to, post-pandemic. We had budgets in place for both models, and we were working through them. Our communication strategy, we put a communication strategy in place for our guests that, there is a possibility that this event is going to go virtual, and that there weren't going to be, refunds. We didn't want to have to give money back to our sponsors. So we just communicate. I really believe in transparency with your guests. Keep them along the journey. Make sure then there's no surprises if you have to send an email that it's going virtual. They knew this was a possibility. Online fundraising only. I mean, that's something our team's been doing now for a while. So making sure that everything could go virtual. So at that auction, that fundraising moment, making sure that you're using a platform that can take, online donations, and really having those COVID-19 response plans. So as we were planning the in-person event at all these dinner series, this was a really interesting process, because we did not know if we're going to be having 30 people in a room, or if we could have 50 people in a room, 60 people in a room. So every venue of these 20 venues that we did, we had different COVID response plans. And I'm going to show you one of them here. So it was so interesting, because like when you look at the cocktail reception, we were like, okay, we're going to have them kind of in their bubbles within the cocktail reception, but they could only be at a cocktail table with somebody that's actually in their own personal bubble. So if you see here, we had cocktail tables with 6 feet apart, but still that would be, for instance, table one would be one table. Then if they were moving into the dinner, we had to have their tables, 6 feet, 4 feet apart. So it was really interesting. Really, having volunteer roles was really important. So making sure that we had volunteers set to even open the washroom door. We had volunteers pressing the elevator buttons. So all things that you never thought of before, we put into about a 20-page robust COVID plan that, now we have, and now we're ready. If there's anything, one of the things that I've learned with COVID this year is now we're ready for anything. So, contingency plans no longer are just like, if you're having an outdoor event and what happens if it's bad weather. Now it's like, what if there's another pandemic? So I think it's taught event professionals for sure to just kind of always be ready. So then what happens? So we're trucking along through the summer, July and August. There was definitely the worry of that second wave come in the fall. But we're trucking along. Sponsors are still talking to us. They still want to be in person. So we're okay. But then that second wave starts hitting in September, and you're seeing the numbers rise. And luckily we got ahead of it a little bit. And, luckily the client we work with really, really trusted our guidance here. And about 8 weeks before, so just before the school year was starting, and we made the decision. We said, look, I think we can't be tone deaf here. We've got to go virtual, that the numbers are rising. And we wanted to make that switch because as much as we hadn't spent any money on anything, there were now new things that we had to do. We had to get, this landing page built. We had to book our studio. And I mean, most of that was booked anyway in our plans, but we had to do our event boxes. So we did really great event boxes with, a 5-course meal delivery. We did wine deliveries, but we had to start now procuring all of those items and booking our partners. So we had 8 weeks and we did it. Was it challenging? Of course. But was it fun? Absolutely. Was it exhilarating? Absolutely. Especially when I'm going to show you the numbers at the end of this event. So our team, we make the decision, and then we just put that communications plan in place, in movement, and we start planning this virtual event. So what we ended up doing is everybody was going to be watching from their home. It was a highly produced event at one of our partner studios. We had to get, we had to start creating all of those digital assets. We had like I mentioned, that 5-course meal was delivered. So we had to get those logistics out there. And again, this was new to us. So we are like, we're learning, but we're excited. We ended up getting, we had to get wine. So what we had about, I think we had in the end about 400 boxes delivered. We had what we called the Gala Celebration box. So in that box, we had all of the print assets. So we had the event program that recognized our sponsors. We had instructions, really detailed instructions on how to log in. We had lots of mission alignment assets in this box. We think that it's really, really important that, just as we think is really important at an in-person event, that you're being touched by the mission of the organization almost at every corner of that in-person. In that box, we needed mission aligned items. So we had a rose that represented a fallen soldier. We had a red ribbon that everybody could put in on and take some pictures for social media. We had then we had some late night snacks. So after they enjoyed their 5-course meal, they can indulge in a little bit of this late night snack with a bottle of wine. So really, really great, all really branded beautifully. And then we had our caterer partner deliver their 5-course meal on that day as well. I would say the only thing we learned there about the Gala Celebration box that I will pass on to you is that we tried to get them all delivered on the day of the event. in hindsight, and we did, everything was delivered. But I think in hindsight, to take off some of that pressure, you can actually ship that gala celebration box the day before. The food has to go out the day of to make sure it's fresh, but the gala celebration box, there's no reason that it can't go out kind of the day before. So some pictures right now on the screen you're seeing are from the actual broadcast. So one thing that we really did is we had to create new sponsorship opportunities for our client to sell this virtual, because, you know, Air Canada, for example, they were always the cocktail reception for this client. So then we created Zoom rooms first. So your table would log into a password protected Zoom room. And then we had one of the squares that had the Air Canada logo on the entire time. Well, what great branding for Air Canada, because everybody was taking screenshots of their table, posting those on social media. So for that, when you look at the sponsorship recognition, that's the one thing that we definitely love about virtual events, is the sponsorship branding is lasting way longer than a couple of signs as at the cocktail reception or on the cocktail napkin. So that was kind of one great opportunity there. You'll see that we did a lot of like lower thirds thanking sponsors during the broadcast. We were able to facilitate a really great fund a need moment. So we worked with one of our great partners that we do all the time, where we're able to have live updates of the online donations coming in. The host was able to see names coming up on his monitor in front of him. So he was able to shout out for certain donations that were coming on. You could also show the leaderboard at certain moments. And happy to say that you'll see we had a goal of 100,000 and we exceeded that. So really, really happy. And also just creating really great sponsor branding throughout. And again, touching on that sponsorship, this live broadcast will live on the True Patriot Love website. And again, people can tune on years later and still see who the sponsors were. So those sponsors are getting that lifelong almost branding. So something that we pride ourselves that we do very well here at Fluid, and we love when we can give our clients some ideas on really creating mission moments, is what we call them. So it's no different than in person. We moved away from the typical have somebody at a podium talking about their lived experience. I mean, that can still be super powerful, and there are still events that's going to work really well, especially maybe donor cultivation events when you don't have a budget to produce like a really powerful mission moment. They can still be impactful. So not that we always don't do it, but when we're creating like at a gala or now a virtual event, we still want to create a moment that your viewers or your guests really get lost in and get moved with. The idea is that we're moving them to, bring out their credit card, pick up their phone, make that donation online, and talk about this moment when they go home. Like, wow, that was really powerful. So something that we think is one of the hugest benefits that have come out of this virtual space is creating a mission moment now on pre-recorded content. So yes, I'm going to show you this one in a moment. So this video now can live on. So you've got your donor managers, your CEO that's going in and pitching a program. Okay, bring this in on an iPad and show them the video that's hopefully going to move them as it moves the guests. So don't brand your pre-recorded content for the event. Make sure that you can use it post-event for years to come. So I'm going to show you one that we did for this client. This is Cassidy Little, who was an actor, also had served in the military, and he was actually in the UK. So we had to produce this from the UK at the time. But where the money was going for their on-site donations, which was really, really clever on True Patriot Love's part, they were doing, every year they call them expeditions, where military go out to camps and, either with their family, and they work through some healing of some of the trauma that they've experienced. Well, now what True Patriot Love did last year is they wanted to also extend this to their frontline workers. So nurses, to come with military veterans as well, to share that experience and the healing, because it's no different than what the military were going in and seeing trauma and choosing, making really hard decisions that our frontline workers had to do during the pandemic. So we're not going to play all of it because it's 5 minutes, but I'm going to play just a couple minutes at the top and then a couple minutes at the end.
May 27th, 2011. My troop and I were advancing on a town in Afghanistan, central Helmand province. My second tour, and this time as a medic for 2 Commando Royal Marines. As we looked for the Taliban compound on the edge of town, we were taken back by the sight of the beauty of this prayer garden. We needed directions, so we asked the young man who was caring for the garden if he'd show us the way. We just arrived, and the boy suddenly started to panic, and he ran. Like, I know he betrayed us, and that he led us to danger, to death. But we didn't know that at the time. Our training kicked in. We started scanning for anything that looked suspicious. I turned towards my troop commander, Ollie, to say something. That was it. The next memory is lying on my back, watching the smoke swirl up into the blue sky. My ears are ringing. There's a flashing, pulsing white light in my eye. I open my mouth to scream, but what comes out is more like a howl. I black out again. Then a guy from my troop is standing over telling me, and he's saying to me, "You're going to be okay. You're going to be okay. But the leg's gone, but you're going to be okay." And I was like, "What do you mean? Like broken?" And he's like, No, like gone. Next compound, gone. So I say, "Whoa, there goes my tap dancing days." He looked at me like I'd lost my mind. Next thing you know, I'm waking up in a hospital in Birmingham. I've been out for 2 weeks. It was an IED. It got Ollie, he was 23. Got my friend Sam, a Marine. Our interpreter was killed too. Like, I got away with an amputated leg, broken pelvis, head injuries. I got off easy. Listen, we signed up to the military knowing that we could die, knowing that we could lose a leg or a life. So why do we do it? Well, to serve, to protect, to give back. For me, being a medic was crucial. I'm going to be a life taker. I really want to be a life saver as well. That balance, well, it sets my mind at ease. But that day, May 27, 2011, I couldn't save my friends. So, how do we move forward? At least 30% of all military personnel who have been involved in combat suffer from PTSD or major.
Just going to move ahead here a little bit to the end.
Discovering the power of human connection to heal. But we all need you. So, the moment to take action is right here and right now. Our goal is to raise at least $100,000 tonight through the power of your compassion and generosity. Donating is as easy as bidding. Scan the QR code or visit www.tplauction.com and hit donate. You'll get a tax receipt for the full amount of your gift. And as you make your pledge, please know that every single dollar is a message to those who protect us. And that message is, I see you. That message is, I thank you. And that message is, I promise I will never, ever forget.
So you can see super powerful. When he mentioned the QR code, just let you know, we then had a lower third come up on the screen that guests or viewers were very easily able to put their phone up, and it would go right to the donation page. So out of that moment, then we came right into the fund and need moment. If you remember going back to that screen where we had the thermometer and the host. So right after this, we kind of kept the momentum going, and we ended up exceeding the 100,000. If anybody wants to see more of that video, because I know it seemed that I just cut it off, please don't feel free to email me and I can send it off to you so you can watch the whole video, because I think it's pretty powerful. So the event ends, and we've had a hugely successful live show, no glitches, right on time. And then, we're reeling in that success. And one of the biggest compliments as an event producer ever, and actually more, not even as an event producer, but as a fundraiser, we hear from the CEO the next morning that one of his foundation board members had called him and said that he learned more about the mission of True Patriot Love, the programs, the clients that he ever had in his entire time of going in person to the gala. I mean, for us, that was it. Then we realized this was a home run because, when I started thinking about it, I was like, why is that? And it's because, we can create really powerful mission moments in person, but what we can't control in room and in an in-person event is that you're going to have interruptions. So we might be creating that really powerful mission moment on the stage, but at that moment, somebody comes over to somebody at the table and starts talking to them. And, instead of being rude, you're distracted. You now are not even focused on that mission moment. Well, if you can create a show, like a 45-minute show, or an hour show, which is what we recommend, not more than an hour ever, you've got their attention. You have their attention. Yes, it's very hard for them to get distracted at home as well. But I believe if you're creating powerful content, you have a better chance of keeping their attention on a virtual event than you do in person. So that was just a huge compliment for our team. Okay, to talk about the numbers of this event, which was hugely successful. You know what I loved? I loved that this client took the risk and said, we're going to go virtual, because a lot of our clients, and no fault of their own, they were nervous about going virtual, so they just canceled. Well, what they lost out on sometimes is the sponsorship dollars that were already earmarked for that event. It was already in your corporate sponsors budget, and this proves it. So 68% of TruePatriot Love retained their sponsors from previous years. 85% of our paid guests tuned in. Told you we exceeded our on-site. We raised about $180,000. We were $57,000 under budget. Huge feat. I mean, that's definitely something we strive for when we're working with our nonprofit clients. Just because you give us the budget does not mean we're going to spend it. We're going to still work for you and negotiate everything. And one of the biggest, again, successes was that we came in at 27 costs on the dollar. And, as everybody knows, those in-person events, it's hard to get them under 40. So to have this virtual event, highly produced, still spend money, still raise the money, and come at 27 cents on the dollar, we were hugely happy here. And so was our client, which was super important. Okay, I'm going to run through this one really, really quickly. This is another client that we had, just to show you the kind of the happy fallout of the pandemic for this organization. They're called Roots of Empathy. They used to have an in-person event in Toronto where they would have about 150 to 200 people in person. The challenge with that is that they're actually a global organization who they do have offices, Ireland and the United States. But they were really never tapping into those markets with their only in-person research symposium. So we went virtual because of the pandemic, but this is one that I really believe they're going to have to continue to go virtual because of the results. We had, so as I mentioned, 150 to 200 people in person. We had just shy of 4,200 people register for this event. So think of the reach, think of the message that's now getting out to people. Over 52 countries tuned in. It was wild. Some things that's a really funny learning here is we actually had somebody call our tech support. I believe they were in New Zealand and they were logging in at the same time. And we were like, well, no, the event is tomorrow. So because we're plus a day, they were actually trying to tune in on the day before. So that was really interesting. One thing that we hadn't thought of when you're actually going to be broadcasting into 52 countries. So think of that. We actually had networking cafes post day one, where we had 1,200 people log in for that. And we were able to really tap into presenters all around the world. So typically at the in-person symposium, you can't budget to fly all these amazing speakers and you just don't have it. Well, now we were able to tap into wonderful researchers that were well known all over the world into this virtual event. So this, again, huge happy fallout from the pandemic. We had lots of great feedback from this one, saying that let's take this one virtual from now on and moving forward. So we're really hoping that this is one of those that will continue to be virtual. All right, so where are we now? We're seeing the light at the end of the tunnel, definitely here in Ontario. So we are ecstatic about that. Having lots of conversations right now about our learnings from 2020 with our clients, and that not all these events have to go go back to in person. So just to highlight our biggest learnings from 2020, the value of pre-recorded content, I spoke about that. The value of virtual events for global and national organizations. The best virtual events are still having a high production value. So I know that not all organizations have huge budgets for the production. So we understand that, and sometimes you have to still just do the best that you can with virtual, and you can. So you can hire a producer at a very minimal amount as well. And then, if you're typically doing in-person galas, but have a high production value, you know what, you're still going to need to spend that money to get the result that you really want. Definitely the value of a comprehensive tech support plan and a communication plan. I talked about that a little bit at the beginning, about really talking to your guests in advance of what could happen if there is a pandemic. And the value of a professionally designed landing page. So let's talk about that a little bit. So with your in-person events, you might just have added something on the website. Now we're really seeing the value of having like that microsite, what people call them, a landing page, making sure it's professionally branded, making sure you've got the sponsorship recognition, make sure that you have a lot of mission-focused content on there. If you're going to be driving your guests to this landing page, make sure there's lots of moments there that you're really pulling at those heartstrings. We just wanted to show you a couple of our landing pages that we developed, and that we really believe that they are the success of a virtual event, because one, it's new to people, and we wanted to try to answer all of your guests' questions on the landing page. So really details about how they're going to log in, where do they call if they need support, making sure that there's a 1-800 tech support number, there's an email to somebody pre-event, and then the real tech support plan for the on-site if there's any issues. You can see here that we definitely wanted to recognize our sponsors. We had a button that could log out to the digital program. So, we did ship them in the gala celebration box, but it also would live here for a while. Your auction, so linking it out to your platform, frequently asked questions, and obviously a donate button. Then on the event day, you could actually log into your table here. So we created these really cool icons that represented, a little bit with the organization. They could click on, if they found their table, Air Canada, table 5, they would click on table 5. When they clicked on table 5, it went a direct link in a private security protected table. So you didn't want to have other guests being able to join all the tables without having that password. I mean, that you really want to protect your guests' privacy. And then this was the portal page for our symposium. So this is where we would have the live media player, where the live broadcast. We had a live chat here that was really, really active during the 2-day symposium. This is where you would join your cafe. So again, just making sure it's really professionally designed, easy to navigate for your guests. And what is the current landscape looking like right now for everybody? I think right now, you've got some people that, or some clients, I should say, that are, they're risk takers. So they're like, let's go, let's do it in person. Let's plan an in-person gala just like we did pre-pandemic. We've got some clients that we're looking at just staying a little bit hybrid. Let's do both. We're really not ready to do 1,000-person gala. But then we've got clients again that are saying, well, we liked the virtual. We're really still scared about what could happen in the fall, so we want to go virtual. It's really interesting conversations right now, because I think it's really unique to the organization, their leadership. Are they risk adverse? Are they not? So I think there's no right or wrong answer on what you want to do for the rest of 2021. Be creative still. Everybody, your donors, your guests to these events, are they risk takers? Do they want to come out? So what do we suggest is have some conversations, before you make a decision, call your corporate sponsors, call your biggest donors that love the events, ask your committees, Are they going to be comfortable going in person? Are they comfortable going in person for 500 people, or maybe just 100 people, maybe just 50 people? You know, that's a great opportunity to still maintain, you know, you're still stewarding these people, these donors. Call them, have a touch point, ask them how they are before you make that decision, because I think every organization is going to be different. There's no right or wrong here right now. So I think if you're struggling to make that decision, that's okay. That's okay. I think call us. We'll love to have a conversation with you, just to say, you know, what we think you should do, what our advice would be, because it's not an easy one right now. It's that unknown. There's no right or wrong. Just do what you think that your corporate sponsors are still going to get behind and what your donors will support. So I just wanted to really show you some of our three largest clients that have in-person events, typically pre-pandemic, where they were around, 800 people, what they're doing. So we do work with Special Olympics of Canada, and I am proud of them. They are being bullish. They are risk takers. They always have been. They're doing an in-person gala. Typically, they would have about 800 people. They're going to do 600 people, typically they were at one venue where they could have, everybody in one room. They're moving to a different venue, what will allow them to have 600 people, but socially distanced. So that's one event that we're going to be partnering with in the fall. Children's Aid Foundation of Canada, they're going to do hybrid. Now, Children's Aid Foundation of Canada's event, Teddy Bear Affair, has been around over 30 years. Always been an in-person event. We are doing a hybrid model for them this year, which is the small venue dinner series in really cool venues in the city where we can do 50 to 100 people. We haven't decided on what those numbers are going to be, but definitely they weren't ready to do in person. So I think this is a nice change. And then the following year, they would be back to an in-person. True Patriot Love, which we talked about a lot today, they've decided to remain virtual this year. We might look at doing watch parties across the city, seeing how things unfold here over the summer. But they loved the virtual event model and saw great numbers. So we'll be continuing to do that one with them virtual. So you can see right now, it's not black and white right now. So it is whatever matters to that organization. So no wrong answer. All right, and where do we think we're going? Well, this is the question that we're all wondering, and I don't have the answers here today. This is where I hope we can get some great questions, or let us know what you're thinking, because I'm so curious what everybody is, talking about. What's the dialogue? Because we don't know right now. Are we looking at, having, actually, I'm going to skip there 1 second. Let's talk about the events that first we think definitely should stay virtual. We talked about the Global Symposium, something we didn't talk about, but I think should stay virtual, because we did a couple of these for clients this year. Recognition events, volunteer recognition, we typically didn't see a high number come out. And on the virtual ones now, with some of the volunteer recognition events we've done, we've seen 200% participation increase of people logging in. Sometimes with volunteers, they don't want to be in person, but they support your organization. So do it virtually now. Board retreats, something that is really heavy on nonprofit budgets, is when you take your board, which are so important, away on a retreat. Well, now, you could do these virtually. You're not having to be gone a whole weekend. I think board members would appreciate it. With the clients that we're working with, we're seeing a higher participation in board meetings now that you're on Zoom. So continue to do that. Put them first and what they want in order for you to get that greater participation. So ask them. Now is the time to ask the conversations moving forward. Should we keep things in that virtual space, Zoom meetings? I think you should. I think if you're getting a greater participation from your volunteers, keep that on Zoom, so it's not too onerous on them to give up more time. Okay, but these are the conversations I really want to have right now. Do it in person. Are you asking for proof of vaccinations? Are you doing COVID tests? We don't know. The biggest question I have right now for nonprofits is, okay, we're going to make a decision that we need proof of vaccination to have 1,000-person event. Well, what happens if your main donor, your main corporate sponsor says, no, I'm anti-vaccine, so I don't want to go because there's proof of vaccination? I mean, I know in nonprofits, we have to make lots of decisions that are tailored sometimes to one person, one donor. Is that going to be something that we're going to do? I don't know. What's so interesting just happened on June 3rd in New York City. There was an event, a 350 person event, no masks, happened in person. You can see, but they required a proof of vaccination, which has now started me thinking about these conversations and we need to have with our colleagues and everyone in this space right now. So I would love to hear what you're thinking in the chat box. Please let us know. What are we going to do when that one donor says, I'm not going to show you proof of vaccination? So it'll be an interesting conversation, I think, for the next like 12 months. So thank you for listening today. I hope you've enjoyed your time here with us. I've enjoyed it. If you want to extend your learning, we did actually do a course with Charity Village this year, and it can be found on their website. Also, if you have any questions, again, chat box, but also please feel free to connect with us on Instagram, by email. We would love to hear from you and just even have some conversations. And again, thank you. Thank you so much for taking the time with us today.